Once you have created your entity and DAO classes, you can define a database with Room. I will add a new class to my database package and I will name this app database. You can really name it anything you want, but you should set the superclass to Room database. Make the class abstract and then click OK to create it. Now, above the class declaration, add a Room database annotation. This will take two values. First, its entities. This is an array of entity classes. Wipe the list inside a pair of braces, and if there is more than one, just use commas to separate them. I only have one node entity and I will pass in its class object. Next, I will pass in a version and I will set that to a value of 1. This is the first version of my database structure. I want this to be a singleton class and I will need to define a few fields. First, I will start with something that is not related to the singleton. I will define the name of the MySQL database. This can be any string you like, and if you want, you can include .db at the end. That will make it a little bit easier to find on your device for testing, but it is not required. Next, I need some code to support a singleton. The next field will be static also, but this one will also be volatile, which means that it can only be referred from main memory. The type is app database, the current class, and I will name this instance. So this will be the one and only instance of this class. Now, when I create the instance of the class, I am going to use synchronization to make sure that two parts of the application don't try to create the database at the same time. When you want to synchronize in Java, you need some kind of object to synchronize on. And this can be pretty much anything. I will create it as a standard Java object that I will name lock and I will instantiate it with new object. And now I am ready to create a get instance method. In IntelliJ IDEA, I can start typing get instance and that method will be generated for me. It's public, it's static, and it returns an instance of app database. Now to create the database object, I am going to need the current context. So I will add that as a parameter to this method. And within this method, first I will check to see whether the instance is null. If it is, then I will add a synchronize block. And I am synchronizing on the lock object. I will do a secondary check to make sure that that instance is still null. And if I get to this point of the code, I am ready to create my database reference. I will declare this will instance equals and then I will call room.databasebuilder. I will pass in context get application context as the first parameter. Then I will pass in the class I want to create the database from, and that is appdatabase.class. And then I will pass in the database name, and then from there I will call the build method. And now I have an instance to work with. Once I get past all this code, I'm returning the instance. And I have one more bit of code that I'm going to need eventually. For each of your DAO interfaces, you should provide an abstract method that returns an instance of that interface. It's an abstract because this method will never be called directly. Instead, there will be some generated code that is created by the Room database in the background, and that is the version of the method that you will be calling. My simple database has one entity and one DAO, and therefore just one table. So I only need one of these methods. But in a more complex application, you would add as many abstract methods as you needed. So the database can now be referenced from anywhere in the application. From the singletons get instance method, there will be only one reference to the database. It will always be stored in main memory because it is marked as volatile. And access will be synchronized, so we don't have any race conditions between different areas of the application. Now, if I try to make the module at this point, I am going to get a compilation error and I see a message that says in a node entity that Room can't figure out how to save the data field into the database. This conflict is happening because Sqlite does not have native support for data object. I need to convert the date to a long integer value, both coming and going, and I will describe how to do that with a type converter class in the next video.